We're here today to talk both about sort of sustainable and just future for our people, but also for our planet. And so what does climate leadership look like when you're thinking about it in an inclusive nature? And that's really important to us, and we're going to explore that today. You know, at United Airlines, I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer at United Airlines. Our mission there is to connect people and unite the world. And we really do believe that travel is one of those activities that can help bridge divides, can bring communities together. And I look forward to sharing a little bit about how United is embedding inclusive climate action into our long-term strategy. But before we go there, let's say hello to my panelists this afternoon. I'm going to ask each of these gentlemen to please introduce yourself, your organization, talk a little bit about some of your priorities today, and then please do an emphasis on how you view climate action today in an inclusive manner. So why don't we start with you, Ben?
Well, good afternoon. It's great to be here with you. It's great to be back in the Bay. I'm a recovering venture capitalist, so nice to be here. And a decade ago, Travi and I wrote a book that was a New York Times bestseller together for it was a bestseller about 3 minutes, but it's really, we've never followed each other on stage before, so that's kind of cool. I'm proud to run the Sierra Club. I was born into the chapter of the Sierra Club that Ansel Adams founded. And unlike any other environmental group that you can think of, we weren't founded out of fear. If you were founded 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago even, you were founded out of fear. Sierra Club was founded in 1892 out of joy. John Muir thought that it was insufficient to get people into the outdoors to clean their lungs, which was a thing in the 1890s with smog. No, he thought the purpose to get people into the outdoors was to transform their souls. And that's why Ansel Adams photography was so important to our movement. At this point in history, the key to building an inclusive climate movement is really to remember that our fear about climate change is really an anthropocentric way of talking about the sixth great extinction that's happening right now. Climate change might drive humanity extinct. But the biggest concern right now is that humanity is causing more species to go extinct in this moment than died every month, every year when the dinosaurs went extinct. We're doing that through habitat loss. We're doing that through the misuse of pesticides. And we all, as humanity, really need to just kind of tap into how much joy this planet brings us, how much joy those species bring us. I'll kind of close on this. I recently went back to where I grew up, Pacific Grove, California, to the monarch grove. When I was a kid, the only question was it 25,000 monarchs that returned last year or 45,000? Last year was 18, not 18,000, not 1,800, just 18. Wow. So, in this moment, I think we all know how to build a stronger movement to preserve our world and everything in it. We just got to do it. We just got to do it.
Oh, that's tough shoes to follow. I'm pretty inspired now, so hopefully I can get the goosebumps going on everyone else. Hey everyone, my name's Leigh Barnes. I have just moved to the USA a couple of months ago, so you may not notice I have an incredibly thick Australian accent. So if at any point I say something you don't understand, please raise your hands and I will go over it for you. So I do apologise in advance. But Intrepid started 35 years ago. A couple of guys got an old garbage truck and drove it across Africa. And they founded a company based on this idea that they believed they could create positive change through the joy of travel. And that travel is uniquely positioned insofar as we need a healthy planet to exist. If you're unable to go to Everest Base Camp, if you can't go see the gorillas in Rwanda, what is the tourism product you're offering? And they really at that point said, hey, we need to make sure we have a healthy planet to have a tourism sector. They also pretty early on, at that point, tourism was very much elite. Yeah, and 35 years ago, it was very expensive, wasn't as accessible as it is today. And at that point, they really said, well, if we're going to travel, we need the communities we're going to engage with and have experiences, those communities are going to want us to be there. If that community doesn't want you to go and engage and understand their culture, again, you don't have a tourism product. So the business was founded under that guise that we wanted to create a way to travel that gave you experiences that had minimal impact on the planet, but ensured the communities that we were going to engage with wanted you there. They wanted that tourism, they wanted that cultural exchange, they wanted that sense of connection. And we know that if we're able to create more intrepid people, that's people going out and seeing the world, that those people that travel are more curious, they're more connected and have a greater sense of community. That's a great world to live in, yeah? And we really want people to go out and connect and have that emotional connection with the world. So what does inclusivity mean to us? It's communities wanting tourism and wanting the businesses there to engage with us. Tourism is an amazing economical driver. Nothing gets dollars straight into the people that need it most so they can self-determine what they do with their future. So what we believe is inclusivity is really people-focused solutions and getting the communities that we travel to and engage with. And every business is going to have a community, whether that's where your head office is, that's where your product is. Does that community want you there? And are you doing everything to mitigate your environmental impacts? And that's how we look at being inclusive as possible.
That's great. You know, it strikes me when I'm listening to both the panelists speak today is this emphasis on joy, this emphasis on adventure, and really just the positive side of travel, and I couldn't agree more with that. But then also, you both touched on accountability to the communities, accountability to the planet, and making sure that we're really approaching the solutions that we're bringing forward with respect and responsibility. And so, you know, at United, that's a part of how I spend my time, and we really focus on building a future towards sustainable travel. When I look at our impact on the environment, 98% of the emissions that we put into the atmosphere are from the fuel that we burn flying our airplanes. And so when we think about what we can actually do that's materially impactful, very important to the climate, it's really replacing that fuel. And I hope some of you, at least in the audience this afternoon, have heard about sustainable aviation fuels. And if you haven't, let me just take one moment. SAF, sustainable aviation fuel, is chemically identical to conventional jet fuel. It's made from either renewable feedstocks or waste byproduct. In fact, perhaps the restaurant right here in the hotel, someone's collecting their used cooking oil. You can actually convert that into a jet fuel and fly on it today with 85% less emissions today. And this technology has potential to go further. You can actually have a net zero jet fuel of the future, which we're really excited about. And that's really where United is emphasizing how we're leading and building markets to enable this solution to come together so that we can actually have that for communities worldwide. So I'm going to bounce back to you, Leigh. I know that you are looking at sustainable travel from your vision. I understand that you might have an announcement that you want to share with the audience, a focus area?
Yeah. So I think I'll probably do a little backpedal and talk a little bit about it so I can announce it properly. Hopefully, I'll do a good job of it. We'll see. Yeah. Look, one of the big, as I touched on before, we need healthy places to travel. Yeah, and as a tourism company, this is so important. And unfortunately, our national parks in the USA are under threat at the moment. And as a company, if we do not have, as a tourism company, have healthy, safe, thriving national parks, we don't have a business here. Yeah, about 80% of our customers in the USA will visit a national park. Yeah, and we've sent thousands and thousands of customers to go engage in those national parks. And I think my message here, and hopefully everyone takes away here, is think about your business and think about where you have positive and negative impacts and what solutions can you create that mitigate the negative and amplify the positives. And the most powerful thing that we can have at Intrepid is getting people out into these places to experience them. So what we're doing today and launching today is a range of trips called Activism. And what they are trips where you get to go out into our national parks. We've launched trips in Grand Canyon and also in Yellowstone. And they're trips that go out with activists that go and lead you out on the trip. So you're being active, getting out into nature, seeing these national parks, but they're going to be led by an activist. And those activists are going to have conversations with you around those national parks, educate you on them, and also give you a toolkit if you're passionate about these places to go and advocate like crazy for the change you want to see in the world. So we're launching these range of trips here in the USA. They're going to be cheaper than our regular trips, so we're making it as accessible as possible. That we want people to get out and experience the national parks and beauty of this great country and make sure that people can be responsible for protecting them. And a key part of that too is all of our trips from today for Americans will be 20% off. So those trips will be cheaper than as possible to make it continually more accessible for Americans to get out and see those national parks. And we're donating $50,000 to national park projects today to help support the national parks in the USA. So my message, and hopefully, is think about your business. where you can create positive change on mitigate negative page, mitigate against negative impacts, and create solutions that people can engage with. So I just encourage anyone over the next couple of months to go out, see a national park, go with a friend, engage in a conversation, and see where that conversation takes you. And it's going to be one of the most powerful things you do to get out in nature. You do not have to do it with Intrepid. I'd love it. It'd be great for my boss. But just go out, go into nature, go with a friend, have a conversation, see where that conversation takes you, and that will be setting you on a different path than today, and I imagine you're going to have a really great experience.
That is pretty remarkable. Wow. And let me put a plug in. So you go to your website to learn more?
Yeah, go to intrepidtravel.com.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I need some marketing brushing up, sorry, yeah.
All right, so flipping over to Sierra Club, can you talk a little bit about how you're engaging consumers today in climate action in an inclusive manner?
Sure, but let me just first compliment you on figuring out how to fly a jet like Willie Nelson powers his bus. That's pretty cool.
It is a lot of science, but it's super cool stuff. Yeah.
You know, first of all, just really appreciate the way that you guys are weighing in about the national parks. To talk about the transformative power of joy, the way the national parks came to be was that our founder, John Muir, was writing books. A vice president named Teddy Roosevelt said, "Would you take me camping, John?" John took him camping to a valley where John used to work at a sawmill. The valley's name roughly translates to the man killers. It was named after the local tribe. And that camping trip that he took Teddy Roosevelt on, well, that gave birth to Yosemite National Park and the entire national park system. And we at Sierra Club, we've run more than 400 successful campaigns to create new national parks and monuments since. And if you're looking for a really affordable way to get into your local state parks and stuff, you can always go to the local Sierra Club group. There are 600 of them around the country. In Los Angeles County alone, we do 1,300 outings a year. And we're running a campaign there called Transit to Trails to connect, as we're doing in many places, to connect the local bus system, in that case to the San Gabriel Mountains, so folks in Compton and Carson, et cetera, can get to those trails easily. Today, we are relaunching our corporate partnerships. They were on hiatus for a generation, for about 20 years. Our Green Ventures and Partnerships is led by Vic Bullock. He is one of the architects of the NAACP Image Awards. He was the only teenager in the room when Aretha Franklin founded that. And he's done great transformative partnerships between impact organizations and companies ever since. And so his latest one is our Trailblazers Ball, which we just relaunched. It was held on the eve of Jane Goodall's 91st birthday. Jane turned 91 on stage over in England and Tanzania, and Chris Martin serenaded her and flirted with her shamelessly. At one point, he just said to her, Jane, did you just ask me out? Because the answer is yes, Jane, the answer is yes. So we have lots of fun on the trails and even in Hollywood. And if anybody's interested in partnering with Sierra Club, just reach out. It's easy. It's just jealous@sierraclub.org.
Well, that's fabulous. And again, the whole theme of joy, the whole theme of fun in trying to transform to a future that is more sustainable. So I do appreciate both of you sharing perspective on how you're making action happen, and you're doing it in a way that can be scaled, which is super exciting. So I say all the time, part of my responsibility as a sustainability professional is really in change management. We're asking different stakeholder groups, whether it's business leaders, governments that are making policy, NGOs, the consumer, anyone, to think differently about what is success. How can business, in my case, be evaluated using a slightly different kind of metric on what success looks like? And that embeds sustainability at its core. So as change makers, both of you, I'm going to ask you to share some perspective on where you see opportunity now. Where do you see opportunity in creating a sustainable future that is inclusive? So let's start with you, Ben.
Yeah, the opportunity really is in every city, it's in every county, it's in every state. The federal government in this moment is pretty closed off to change around our environment that's positive. And yet, the beautiful thing about Sierra Club is that we're, again, rooted in 600 communities across the country and active in thousands. And all those changes add up. When it comes to something like saving the western monarch, every pollinator garden counts. Every city we can stop, we can get to stop using the wrong pesticides counts. Every company that decides to build pollinator gardens and stop their groundskeepers from using pesticides that are killing kind of everything counts. And that really has been the ethos of our movement from the beginning, is what each of us does counts, and it all adds up, even when the federal government isn't so cooperative with trying to save planet Earth.
Yeah, I think the big shift that we'll see, and I think one of the most powerful things any organisation can do, is transparency. I think that in a time where bureaucracy or governments or other components are stepping away and providing the North Star or the rail guards, you've got to take responsibility for your organisation and lead. And I think one of the most powerful ways to do that is being openly transparent about your organisation, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, that can be pretty scary at a leadership point of view, at a board point of view, but what it does, it creates very powerful change within your organisation, and it holds you accountable. And I think we're going to see this, one of the biggest shifts, and you're going to see sustainability leaders focusing on transparency as a way to create change in their organisation. And I hope what we see is a move away from just wanting to be the loudest in the room around certain sustainability projects, and you're focusing on the transparency of your organisation. Now, why is this so important? When you aren't up to scratch on something and your business is having a negative impact, it shines a light on that in a way that makes you uncomfortable and makes you drive change. So you have to be able to make those changes and do that. But also, it shows you the positive, and your audience and customers will love you for that, and they will elevate and talk about it. So I think what I want to see from organisations, and I think what's going to be the biggest change amongst the pushback from governments or left versus right, whatever that is, be transparent, talk about your negatives, and talk about your positives, and put in place processes and actions to fix that. So yeah, I'm really, really encouraging anyone to be as transparent as possible, because from that you'll see great solutions.
The other thing I would say, just to hop in, is when you're trying to organize people to really stop climate change and help our planet just chill out a bit, it's in such turmoil, it's okay. In fact, sometimes it's more effective to just talk about what's in it for them. Sometimes we're talking about jobs because we're helping to organize funding for a new solar panel factory, for instance. But a lot of times it's health. This year we're celebrating shutting down, transitioning, if you will, away from more than 2/3 of the coal-fired power plants in the country. When we started our Beyond Coal campaign 20 years ago, our hope was that we could shut down 1/3. But this year we will also celebrate 1 million asthma attacks prevented because we shifted away from 2/3 of the coal-fired power plants in the United States. 100,000 heart attacks prevented, and 70,000 unnecessary deaths prevented. Every coal-fired power plant in the United States, there's an algorithm for how many people they're killing, for how many children and elders they're sending into respiratory distress. And so we find that when we really need to organize a community, the most effective slogan isn't about planet Earth, it's about the children in that community. We just say simply, it shouldn't be this hard to breathe here. And that's the thing I think to understand about fighting climate change, is that we're also, at the end of the day, we're fighting air pollution. We're fighting water pollution. That coal-fired power plant's also the reason why it's unhealthy to eat the fish out of the local stream, because they're full of mercury that's deposited from the residue of the plant. And if you just keep it simple for local people, suddenly it's less political, and it's just common sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a real quick comment on the transparency piece, because I certainly feel that every single day, and I think we'll probably dive into that later this afternoon in our panel. But what that does is it affords you the ability to build trust with all of your stakeholders in a way that is actually anchored in integrity. So not everything is roses and butterflies. And I think for a while we were kind of doing a bit of a tap dance to say, it is, but it's not. And we've got a lot of work to do. And we have to be very candid and direct about that. And we need partnerships across the whole value chain to get there. And so I do appreciate those remarks. Okay, lightning round, and then we're going to close. What gives you optimism today?
Honestly, what gives me optimism is things like you guys are doing. It's companies, it's cities, it's counties deciding that no matter what Washington is saying, we just need to go ahead and do the right thing.
Yes.
Optimism, nature, the world, getting out, seeing stuff. You know, I've been lucky enough to trek to Everest Base Camp, you know, go to Yellowstone. These are the things that give me optimism. If you're feeling down or bad, just go out there, see the world. It is bloody beautiful. There's amazing stuff out there. Go have a coffee and a beer with someone, go out into nature. Nothing will give you more optimism than going out and engaging and seeing these things and having a conversation with a friend.
And as we agreed earlier, just tell everybody you can't get a signal there. Don't worry if you can. Just tell them in advance there's no signal.
Yeah, throw the phone in the bin. Yeah.
Well, please join me in thanking our panelists today.